Hey everybody, and welcome to our Age of Sigmar launch day follow-up video, where we're going to talk about the new releases. I don't normally do review videos, but I'm pretty excited about what I've seen so far for Age of Sigmar, and obviously Chris and I just played what we feel like is our first real Age of Sigmar game with new armies. And so we basically sat and took some notes about some key talking points we want to talk about. And I'm going to let Chris go first. So I had some impressions from the game, he had some impressions of the game, and we're just going to share those with you as two guys that played Warhammer for years. So what was your first thought having just finished playing that game?
I think when we finished our chat and talked a bit, the first kind of thing I just kind of popped into my head and I realized, like, when was the last time I just played a game right out of the box?
Yeah.
Like a starter set.
I had to think about that, and I'm pretty sure that the last starter set game I played, which was actually like a here's how you play a game, was Mordheim.
Yeah, like, and I was thinking too, I'm like, was it a specialist game? It
yeah.
must have been. Like,
that was literally the last time that I had a sealed box. I had no models for that game yet, and I cracked it open and started playing it. And that's what when you pointed it out, I was like, immediately, that's exactly what we just did.
Because I guess what I was so surprised at is the amount of depth that I felt from just playing the starter set, which it surprised me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I felt like there wasn't anything missing in terms of units.
Mm-hmm. Well, the old rule of starter sets was you got a taste, but you didn't get a meal, right? You didn't necessarily get a complete army. So when I think back to like Battle of Macragge, you got some Gene Stealers and some Termagants, and you got a tactical squad. Yeah. That does not an army make, you know what I mean? Whereas when we played this game, we got formations, we got multiple characters. Like, we had viable armies that had interlocking and synergistic like buffs. And the analogy I used in the video you guys just watched, if you watched the game video, was it felt like playing with like a pre-constructed Magic deck. Like, it did a thing, there was a theme, right? They gave us exactly 2 formations out of the box to play with. And that by focusing on that, I think I got a better look into the intent behind the rules design in this game, where the keywords are really important and how things lace together is really important.
Yeah, there's like, I think depth is the best word I could think of when I was thinking about the game we played. Like, it felt fully fleshed out, and every unit seemed to have a place in the box, as opposed to just being the unit that you get in the box. It seemed to have a reason to be in there, not only to teach you something about the game, but also to fit in with the story or to fit in with the purpose of the army. Yeah,
the theme. It definitely felt like, if I was to put the narrative in my head, you had these like crazed demigods in your army that were riling up your kind of average troops to go above and beyond and do not average things. Like, we were talking again in the beginning, Chris was looking at his army about how the basic Blood Reaver isn't a lot to look at on paper. No. But when you start piling all the buffs on him, and if I've like killed a unit during that turn, that unit of 20 guys throws 80 attacks, rerolling 1s to miss.
Yeah, it's
like,
crazy.
It's bananas. Like, they did more work. Like, they almost lost you the game, but they did more work, I think, than anything else in your army.
And just, that's a perfect example, because without that unit being part of this army, the idea of blood begets blood, and this like bonuses for models dying on either side. And it's really built into the whole theme of the army, because even my Khorne Warriors, for example, these guys, when they take damage or make saves, you take more damage. So it's all this like cool stacking. The army feels like it goes together really well.
And the same thing went with my my Stormstrike Brotherhood, where I was getting to deploy my army basically wherever I wanted, 9 inches away from you, after you deployed. It wasn't an alpha strike the way that you would think of in a 40k game, where all of a sudden I'm just getting to throw damage onto things. It was more I get to pick where the game takes place. In the first game of this I played, we really did make the mistake of trying to play 8th edition fantasy with these rules and our old models. Whereas with this one, I just tried to, you heard me talk about it in the video, I just tried to empty my head of everything I knew, forget the name even of the game, and just try to learn this miniature game without any preconceived sort of like ideas of how it was going to play. And I think that helped me to see what I was supposed to be doing with the models and how they fit together, as opposed to, my idea of, well, this is how my ogre army plays right now. Maybe if I try doing that in this new game, it'll work. Which ended up just being take Iron Guts, because they're amazing.
They're okay.
So that's an interesting perspective. I think that was, if I was to gauge if it was a success or not to just play with what came in the starter set, definitely give it a go, because you do experience, I think, the intent behind the design in this game better. And I think what we were trying to pull back the sort of like the curtain to see was, what is this game going to look like in a year?
Yeah.
Right? Which we don't really know. Like that spoiler that happened last week didn't really give us a look into that.
I think it would give you such more rich context for if you were to use your old models again.
Yeah.
Just the value of seeing, oh wow, yeah, I get it. This is what two kind of even armies look like. I can see the synergies put into the theme, and I think it'll help you if you're planning on building an Age of Sigmar army that's not in this box. Having played with the set together, I think it'll give you a lot of help with that.
Yeah, and we don't know if it's real or not. There was a spoiled sort of email that went to retailers on the internet this week that was talking about some loose army construction rules and caps. We'll talk about this in sort of part 2 of this video, where we talk about the White Dwarf that's coming out this week. It'll be getting I think it comes out tomorrow, doesn't it? And then it gets all the stuff in here gets pre-ordered.
Exactly.
That's right. So the day that you guys are watching this White Dwarf will be out, and you guys are going to see all the rules for the Liberators and the Stormcast. What is his name? The
Celestons?
The Celestin, that's right. The Lord Celestin on foot, as opposed to the one on Monster. And those rules, that sort of spoiler email, if that is in the new book that gets previewed, they kind of make sense, because then there's a reason, and we'll talk about it later, but there's a reason to take the one on foot over the one that's on the Monster because of keywords and capping and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you take a Monster hero, he takes up 2 slots.
He's 2 slots. Yeah, he's a hero and a monster, as opposed to just taking a guy on foot, and then you can still have your monster.
Exactly,
It kind of divides the model into 2. But anyway, we'll get to that later. And so yeah, that really, I think, playing with the starter set, I haven't done that since I was a teenager. Obviously, it was kind of impressive, I think, how well designed the starter set was from a give you an idea of how this plays. It was funny, because when I compare it to other games with their starter sets, I think they've done a good and bad job of showing you how to play a game. So if I think about the War Machine starter sets, for instance, the old single-player battle boxes, which came with like a Warcaster and like a couple of Warjacks, and then I compare them to the ones that Privateer Press did recently, where they've got these 35-point battle boxes. You see how much better a version of the experience is. So the original 2-player ones was like some Warjacks and a Warcaster. And that gave you kind of like an idea of the mechanics of the game, like how does stuff move around and attack. But it didn't really show you how people play War Machine, which is all of those interlocking abilities and buffs and mechanics and stuff. Whereas these new 35-point boxes are doing, this seems more in that vein, where they give you something with some basic synergies, some stuff that goes together. It's pre-constructed, exactly.
Right? It has a theme, it works together.
And it works together. And so I think this is a truer, if you give it a chance, it's a truer experience of what the intent is in this game design, as opposed to just lining up the figures you have now and trying to recreate a battle that you've played 10,000 times with these rules, because it just won't work. I think it's a square peg and round hole. Like it's not designed to kind of act that way. So this was a good experience, coming out with fresh eyes. And what's interesting now, having done this, I think it's a good time we can probably segue into this week's release, is what we've seen in this White Dwarf. So the big changes, there's a new War Scroll for Liberators that's completely different from the War Scroll in the rulebook. The War Scroll in the rulebook is just guys with Sigmarite Warhammers and Sigmarite shields. Whereas the War Scroll in this White Dwarf, which we assume is going to look like the War Scroll that's in the new book, the 296-page book, has a bunch of options. So a lot like a 40k army, 1 in 5 guys can be given a greatsword or a great hammer, and all of the unit can pick from either Warhammer and shield, sword or shield, or 2 swords. And those give you various degrees of defense to offense.
What's cool, and if you haven't really touched on much Age of Sigmar yet, what I really love about weapon options in this game is it's not about negatives or anything like that. Every weapon has a different purpose. It's just different.
Hit more often, hit harder,
or you wound more often,
or you rend more,
or you get a bit more rend with this weapon. Like
damage output goes up.
It's just what do you want that unit to do, and that's it, right?
And that's the stuff that we hadn't seen at all in the War Scrolls that were for the older armies, and that didn't exist so far in the starter set. So seeing that that's an option, seeing that you can tinker with units and construct units the way you want them to be, and to kind of do various jobs. It's not just take, a unit's a unit. They're not just vanilla and the same way every single time.
So we've already seen now, from the starter set to just the next White Dwarf, a different War Scroll of a previous unit. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's exciting. I mean, the fact that you could just in a couple of weeks you could see something you've already read just be new again and have more options. So if you're worried about lack of options, trust me, there's options.
Well, because to the modeler in me, to a guy because here's the thing. to a guy who's now building, and it's a joke, right? They're Warhammer Space Marines. Well, they're Warhammer Space Marines. I'm not afraid to call them that, and I love building Space Marines. I want to be able to get a multi-part kit that I can tinker with and make look cool and pose and do stuff with. And I want the rules to let me do that and reflect that. Yeah. And so it is incredibly, I don't want to say reassuring, but it's exciting to me that now I can do that with the guy in this White Dwarf. And the second bit, which is the Lord Celestin on foot, he has different command abilities for one, different hero abilities as well. And he's not on a monster. And the first thought that I had when I looked at him was like, well, why would I take this guy ever if I could take the one on the Dracoth? Like, the Dracoth one just seems better. His damage output's higher. He's got some crazy special rules, and his command ability is amazing. Your whole army within 24 inches is fearless. Yeah. But when I think about it, if that little spoiler email with some basic army construction rules is something that's in the base game, then it makes sense that you have a guy with a monster keyword and a hero keyword that's now all of a sudden a bigger investment of your slots, right? If there's slots that you're trying to fill up when you're constructing your army, or you have a sort of a pool available to you, there's a reason to take that guy on foot if he gives you access to a monster now. Yeah. If now you basically take that and divide it into two models, two different war scrolls. Sure. And that's theorizing. I don't know if that's the case or not, but putting two and two together, that would seem to be the reason why there would be a foot option and a mounted option.
Yeah, that, and just reading through some of the old model war scrolls, that there's I don't know if this was with everything, but it seemed like different command abilities could synergize with different units. So you might want to take a foot guy if he works really well with X unit versus this. So like depending on what your strategy might be, like I mean the command values just from playing with the game we played, it's like just the two different ones were like worlds apart, different. Yep. And even with the generic one, you have a lot of options there, and it's going to be cool to see how people use those command values.
We talked about that actually in the video, was how your general went from getting you into combat and then switched over to his secondary command ability, which was Inspiring Presence to make guys fearless, and that was really important. Whereas mine, his almost replaced Inspiring Presence, so he was just using the same one.
It's just a better version of that one. So I mean, if you could get, for example, the new model, right? And if he has something different, now all of a sudden you have two viable command options versus one just better version of the other.
His is Furious Retribution. If this model is your general and uses this ability, then until your next hero phase, you can add 1 to the result to any hit rolls on friendly Stormcast External guys within 9. Wow. So now all of a sudden, every single one of my my Liberators is 3s and 3s.
See, that's,
if he's got hammers, just 3s and 3s. They're all heroes all of a sudden, right? 3s and 3s, don't even care. And that's within 9 inches. So
you can see like right off the bat, and then still having Inspiring Presence, so he still has something sort of like the old model too. So I mean, it's time's going to tell whether these 5-wound heroes are going to be are they better? Are they worse than a model that has?
Well, I think it comes down to that deck construction thing, right? That idea that if we are moving to a place where you are given a format, almost a frame, and that frame just accepts the fact that no list construction is perfect. There is going to be, like in Magic, there's bad cards. There's cards nobody buys, right? There's cards that are bad, and so you don't use them. And there's that
really good cards.
And there's really good cards. And there's that argument like, well, why would I ever take goblins? Well, because you wouldn't. Like, if you have the option between taking Black Orcs and Goblins, and they're both one win.
I know everybody doesn't feel this way, but I'm so glad I don't have to pay another
$1 million goblin. But it's a legitimate. If what you were trying to do was recreate the Warhammer 8.5 experience with these rules, it's a legitimate complaint. But you're not necessarily going to find a place for these guys in this new game. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm still perfectly happy to use my Warhammer 8.5 armies to play Warhammer 8.5, and I'm excited to learn and play a completely new game that's different and use the new models and try and figure out how that game works. Then I'm okay with them not having a place in it. Now, it's nice that they gave you the option, but you can't expect to I guess if they use Magic Trainers, you can't expect to have an entire deck of 1/1 creatures and win.
This is the thing, right? The other thing too is I would honestly give everything a double look too, because the Blood Reavers, I think, are a good example once again. They hit on 4s, they wound on 4s. They have 1 wound, they have no save. Wow, on paper that sounds really terrible. Bad, right? Yeah. However, in the larger context of the army with all of the bonuses, I got myself up to 4 attacks model. Yep. Wow, that's a lot better.
And rerolling ones.
There might even be stuff coming in the future that lets them hit on 3s or something, or something like that, and you can start to see things like that. And I'm sure other units have stuff like that too.
Yeah. Well, I think we haven't really dug into it yet. And like I said, what I felt like at the end of this whole thing was like we got to see a preview of a game that we'll be playing in 5-6 months as stuff comes out. And that's kind of the next thing that we see in this White Dwarf is we see a synopsis. And if you squint really hard, you can kind of read some of the pages.
I don't know how your old man eyes read those.
296. It was through desire. I just soaked them off the page.
To read them so badly.
But you could see some spoilers on. There's two little bits in here that are interesting. The first one is I think it's battle plans. Yeah, battle plans. And battle plans look like they are the thing that you and your opponent decide you're going to play at the beginning of a game. So it's the scenario that you're going to be playing towards. The one that we see here is called preemptive strike. It's all around a realm gate, so it's all about someone's breached a realm gate and they're trying to bring reinforcements through, and there's an attacker and defender basically, and the win conditions aren't just the basic win conditions that are in this rules pamphlet. Now you could default to that, but there are other ways of playing the game. That makes the game instantly more interesting because as long as there's a victory condition that isn't table your opponent, right? You've now got more options and more things to do.
For sure.
And in fact, the thing that was interesting in this game was you actually won through fleeing. You won through, the last game that we played, the one you guys just watched, he won through selective model removal, so taking the last model that was within 3 of me, and then just hightailing it out of there with the one model that was alive. Peace, I'm gone! And there's no way I can go, and then blocking, and then your monster's blocked. And it was a legitimate tactic. It felt like games of War Machine I've played where I've had my hero jammed up and I couldn't do anything. And models weren't just valuable for what they did on paper anymore, they were valuable for where they were on the table, and it was a legitimate maneuver that you could pull. And anybody can do it, they can flee from combat. We didn't realize that in the first game we played, and we just bogged down into an attrition game.
It's funny, I thought the sudden death, I don't know, I've only played the one so far obviously, but I thought the sudden death would be a little bit more punishing, but I found the opposite instead. I found it gave a really cool, clear objective to both of us for the game, and it made it a lot more enjoyable, I found, actually. I had to kind of protect my unit, use them carefully. It gave Ash a clear kind of battle plan for how he's going to attack me. I think there's like a little bit more there than people are like maybe we're giving credit for.
This size game felt really good. Like we have no way of really knowing yet because this book isn't out how these pre-constructed formations are balanced against each other. We just know that they seem to be because the game was very close, and it felt like there was equal. If you guys watched the report, there was an equal chance of either of us winning all throughout the game, and that push-pull of, you're trying to kill me to a man, but I've got this way of just winning if I can pull it off. It was a legitimate tactic on either side. So I think that's going to be interesting in this book. We've got some new scenarios. I really liked playing a scenario as opposed to just the one we played was basically right out of the book. But I really liked the idea that there was some pre-constructed ideas for the lists. Like it was not just get up and go where we suffered the temptation of playing too big a game. And this felt like the right amount of models. It was interesting. It went about 90 minutes to play the actual game. A bit longer because we were filming, obviously, but the actual film time that you guys are going to watch is about 90 minutes long. And I didn't feel like the game bogged down. Like every unit was important. I had to make tactical decisions with all my units, and I didn't have so much stuff that anything could just be
I didn't really feel like there was a slow turn at all, where we were kind of like repositioning, or sometimes in the old edition you get to the point where you've overcharged or you move to a point, and then you have to kind of regroup. And no, you're right back in it right away. Like my guys killed some stuff over here. He moves and runs, and now he's a factor again in the game. And
you're able to reposition fast enough that stuff was still a threat, even if it was relatively out of the game for the first time.
And you mentioned earlier, and I think it was really worth pointing out, is you feel a bit more engaged on not your turn. I think in this game.
Being able to pick the combats back and forth gives you something that you can do, and it's a really interesting gamble. Like he almost gambled and lost with his Chaos Lord, where my Retributors were just like, okay, if I roll 3 6s, you're dead. And Chris was just like, what? What do you mean I'm almost dead? And that's, again, I said this thing in the last video, I would love some counters for this game that help me track all the various buffs and interactions that are going on. I think writable tokens or something like that. Get on that, token companies that make tokens. I think this is a game you could easily make tokens for, and there'd be an aftermarket for just like clear writable tokens that would help me see all the different effects that are engaged. Because very often we'd use like a command ability, and we should mark it somehow. You know what I mean?
And with all the stacking, especially on the corn side, you forget that you're rerolling ones to hit.
Who's doing what all of a sudden? And we use my old charge markers
you have at any given time. So it's not that it does a ton of bookkeeping, but just you don't want to miss out on something that's really going to help you in the game. Right?
And as more of these units come out and there's different abilities like that, it would be nice just to be able to track it all. So I think that's something I would like. Hopefully the aftermarket just does it, or Games Workshop makes something themselves. But being able to visualize what's going on interaction-wise for the rules on the table would be really cool. And then the last bit that we got spoiled in the book is there's going to be 24 war scrolls in it. Now, right now, for the Stormcast Eternals, there's 5 that are in the starter set. I think there's 6 that are in your.
I think it's 6, yeah.
They're in your Khorne Blood Horde, or whatever it's called.
Bloodbound.
Bloodbound. And then if we look at the color section in the main rulebook, you see the kind of expand your armies section. They've added the Wrathmongers to the army, and they've added the War Shrine. So that would make 8, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that when we look at the scrolls in the book next week, you'll see probably what's in this picture.
Maybe a new release.
Or maybe a new release, who knows? Well, but these are very newish releases that would go, really cool. Which would make sense.
Yeah.
They're not going to get rid of the whole range. If stuff's relatively recent, why would they not have it still included in that thing? So my guess is, this is the take your grain of salt, but the Ash Barker guess of maybe what's coming would be that those 2 units, the Wrathmonger whatever, is 1 scroll in your army either way, and then the War Shrine, some kind of Khorne themed War Shrine with the Khorne symbol on it, is what's coming in that 8. And then of course there's 3 new. We've seen spoilers for at least 1, which is the ranged combat guys. There's the Celestin on foot, so it's another one.
Yeah.
And there's got to be something else. So there's probably something we haven't seen yet. The ranged combat guys have bows or like repeater big crossbows with machine guns. So that's exciting. I'm excited to have more shooting in my army.
Oh, jeez.
I'll do that. So yeah, get me a box of those. And then the mystery one. And then, so if it is 8 War Scrolls per army, this is a guess obviously, but based on what we see in the rulebook and the expand your army section and what we can count for the number of War Scrolls in existence already, that would make sense. Yeah. There's the last one, which is the tree people. So it's the where is it? Sylvaneth. And those are the guys who are basically the good guy demons. And that's
and looking at the Treeman
Ancient. You can see the Treeman Ancient profile if you really squint right there. Dryads, and then
branch wraith.
What else is in plastic? Those are plastic branch wraith?
Maybe not actually. Yeah.
It's what else would there be? Because there's 2 here.
There's 3 different versions of the Treeman.
Right. There's the Durthu, the Ancients,
and the regular Treeman. Yeah.
So there you go. So there's 3. Plus Dryads, which just make Dryads, and then who knows? There could be a bunch of spoiler stuff.
They could even do be crazy, but they could do you know what? They could include something like a Wild Rider because they are technically tree spirits.
They are technically tree spirits, yeah. Are they plastic?
They are.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, who knows?
So that's really cool.
An elf demon or a demony elf.
And I think
it's entirely possible.
Cool part of that, seeing that as part of the first book, is the concept that they're going to use these
parts of the range. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
in the new game.
Yep.
So you don't have to be too afraid
of your current collection or whatever.
Yeah, because why wouldn't they? The models are new, they're cool. A lot of these things came out last year.
Yeah, exactly. They came out in the last little while. And it's there's a lot of stuff that's being run down on the website right now. I think Plague Kings or Blight Kings or whatever are out of stock. It's probably just a repackage to give them around bases. I can't imagine that they're not just going to put those back in whatever. Models, exactly, in whatever the next wave of Chaos releases is, which would be Nurgle. Because if they do 8 scrolls for Chaos, then they can move on and do 8 scrolls for Nurgle, and they can do or however many. Maybe they'll do 7. They'll do 7. They'll do 7 for Nurgle. They do 9 for Tzeentch. That would completely makes sense. They do 13 for Skaven. That would be awesome. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the other half of that release, and we're going to see that next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching the battle report, got a taste of what's in the starter set. We did our best just to be impartial and then to take a sort of impartial look at where this could be going with the White Dwarf and the stuff that's coming out. We'll do this again for when the book comes out and hopefully play through some battle plans, or at least a battle plan.
Ash and I both want to kind of expand these armies and see where they go.
A little more midnight painting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it won't be so bad.
I got some highlights.
I was going to say, you have some highlighting to do. It won't be so bad, though, because if it's just the Liberator Prime and the dude,
it
won't be so hard.
The first burst is over, so.
Yeah, because, what I'll get to do is if I just get 1 box of the Stormcast Liberators, I can add 2 special weapons. Actually, I can only add 1 special weapon because they won't both go to 10. Because I have 5 and 5, I need 2 boxes. I need to get 2 boxes of them.
Sounds like it needs 2 boxes.
So I need 2 boxes, but then I can make them both 10-man units with their full complement of special upgrade weapons. I give them both hammers.
That's so cool. I love the idea of like a special weapon in a fantasy.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
do so many cool things with that.
Absolutely.
Battering ram or something like that. You can do
There's so
anything.
much, well, you mean this game, think about rattling guns, think about all the stuff, their weapon attachments now that you could add in. So I think that's what I'm excited about, and you'll see that hopefully next week on Saturdays. This is my ongoing series of like as it gets released Saturday videos. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. We'll see you for more Age of Sigmar coverage. Again, this doesn't preclude me from doing Old World Adventures in the future, guys. So if you are a fan of Old World Adventures, I'm sure I'll be playing that game again soon. But right now, this is coming out, and we're really excited about trying out a new game. So we're making these videos.
And if you want to come down to Lords of War Games and Hobbies in Oakville, come check it out here. We got stuff you can try out with, and we have lots of copies.
That's right. And if you want to come play a game with me, just email me at guerrillaminiaturegames@gmail.com, or just go to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/out-of-the-basement into the streets, and send me a message. We can set up a game. You can try Age of Sigmar and throw down. I got lots of people actually lined up for this month anyway to do that. So hope you enjoyed it again. I hope, again, we were trying to be as even-handed as possible and just be objective about the whole thing, not bring our preconceptions from our previous Warhammer experience into it, and look at it just what's in the starter set and just what's being released in isolation. So we'll see you for more Age of Sigmar stuff. And until then, guys, happy wargaming.
Take care.